We humans really like impressive buildings and structures. Driven by both fascination and desire, we spend enormous amounts of resources on developing extraordinary standards for construction. Meanwhile, 65 million people in the world today have been forced away from their homes. This has led to large concentrations of refugees and internally displaced populations in many different areas of the world. The refugee crisis is increasingly becoming a global matter. The growing influx creates tensions in cities and regions, and populations are trapped in deserted and rough areas for decades, areas that often have very limited resources. Many of the refugees living in camps today are housed in tents. However, the typical tent is unhealthy, unsafe, and challenging to live in for longer periods of time. Tents often get either too hot or too cold, and they provide poor safety and very little privacy. Tents also burn easily, which makes fire for cooking and heating a big risk. Tents typically last only 6 to 12 months, while average displacement is over 15 years. As tents need to be replaced again and again as they decay, it quickly becomes very attractive to find a more durable solution. The obvious solution would be to build more permanent homes. However, permanent housing is usually too expensive and is often met with strong political resistance. The good news is that it doesn't necessarily take more money to start reversing this emerging global crisis. We simply need to start spending them more wisely. If we put just a little of all the brainpower that we spend on architectural eye candy into developing more sustainable housing for refugees, we can easily help the strained local communities towards improved resilience and self-sufficiency. Lifeshelter is a groundbreaking new shelter solution developed in partnership with leading organizations, NGOs, and universities. Lifeshelter is designed to improve the living standards of the millions of people trapped in refugee camps all over the world. Lifeshelter is based on a simple but unique panel system. The shelter consists of a series of identical panels put together to form a stable curved structure, and more panels can easily be added to make the shelter as long as desired. Lifeshelter's curved design is optimized to withstand the forces of nature and is ideal for stability as it distributes stress from wind and guides it to the ground. It can even resist earthquakes of a considerable magnitude. Lifeshelter's panels are made from insulation boards. The insulating effect offers protection against cold, and in hot weather it significantly reduces the radiation heat from the sun, preventing the buildup of heat inside. Lifeshelter also offers efficient sound insulation. This both markedly reduces the stress from outside noises and allows for conversation inside the shelter without having others listening. This radically increases the much-needed feeling of privacy when living close to other families. Lifeshelter is made from non-combustible materials, significantly reducing the risk of fire accidents. Lifeshelter is ideal as a temporary solution. However, if the situation changes and more permanent housing is required, the shelter can easily be upgraded simply by placing it on a raised foundation. Lifeshelter Classroom is a scaled-up version of the Lifeshelter, perfect for educational facilities, as the comfortable temperature and noise insulation provide an ideal learning environment. Lifeshelter Classroom has a low cost and a fast production rate, which makes it a great alternative to the more permanent structures often used for educational facilities in strained areas. Lifeshelter is suited to be manufactured locally. A local production ensures an adequate production capacity and helps strengthening the communities, creating jobs and local economic growth. When the shelters are no longer needed, they can be disassembled and the insulation boards can be straightened and reused for energy upgrading regular buildings. In fact, reusing a settlement of shelters could be presented as a return of investment within only a few years. Lifeshelter has been refined and optimized over the years to bring the price of a shelter very close to the price of a tent. So now it is finally possible to ease the lives of millions of refugees in a cost-effective and more sustainable way. Simply by spending the resources more wisely, we can create the impact so sorely needed and lead us towards a more embracing world. If you're working in an organization or NGO and are interested in cooperating, please contact info@lifeshelter.com. If you want to learn more about Lifeshelter, please go to lifeshelter.com.